Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a pretty fascinating document. It's focused on a core challenge, really.
Hmm.
How do you effectively communicate a message?
Right. And in this case, that message is the gospel.
Exactly. And this source material, it lays out a really compelling case for brainstorming. Just a huge range of outreach methods, some direct, some maybe more indirect.
Yeah, the central idea, it seems, underpinning this whole approach is really the power of abundance, diversity and abundance.
Okay.
The document actually points to 2 Corinthians 9.6, the principle that sowing generously leads to a generous harvest.
Sow bountifully, reap bountifully. Got it.
Exactly. So our mission, you could say, for this deep dive is to really unpack the sheer breadth of methods suggested here and maybe understand the thinking behind this quite comprehensive, multi-pronged approach.
Right. And we'll look at specific examples from the text, maybe spark some ideas, see how it all fits together.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's get right into this call for just generating a huge number of ministry options. The document's really clear on this.
It is, isn't it?
It pushes us to, and I quote, think of as many methods of communicating the gospel as possible, and to picture a multitude of methods.
A multitude, yeah.
Mhm.
It even suggests small groups getting together, brainstorming, really getting the creative juices flowing.
So what's the thinking behind just sheer volume? Why so many?
Well, I think what's particularly interesting is this idea that by casting a really wide net, you just inherently increase your chances,
Oh,
right?
okay.
You connect with different people in ways that might actually resonate with them.
Yeah.
It's about moving beyond maybe a one-size-fits-all thing.
Right. Recognizing people are different. Communities are different.
Exactly. Like finding the right key for a lock. The more keys you try, the better your odds, maybe.
That makes sense.
And it even suggests, interestingly, looking at a Great Commission Christians list to see what other organizations, other individuals are already doing.
Ah, so tapping into existing networks.
Yeah, it implies this kind of collaborative, expansive mindset, you know?
Okay. But it's not just about directly sharing the main message, is it? Because the document makes this distinction
That's right.
between pre-evangelism activities and direct evangelism activities. That sounds like a whole spectrum.
It is a spectrum of engagement.
Yeah.
Pre-evangelism. Well, it's like creating a receptive environment, preparing the soil, before you plant seeds.
Okay. Like what kinds of things?
Could be addressing practical needs, building relationships, maybe fostering goodwill in a community, things like that.
And direct evangelism is?
That's the more explicit sharing of the message itself. But the document seems to recognize that, well, sometimes you need to build that trust first.
Address immediate concerns.
Exactly. Before people are maybe open to hearing more direct communication, it's sort of a phased approach. Not everyone's ready for the same thing at the same time.
Right. Okay, let's dive into some of the specific examples then, because some of these are really practical, hands-on things.
Yeah, they list quite a few.
Like conducting prayer walking and spiritual warfare seminars in existing churches. What's the strategy there? Focusing within the church.
Well, what's insightful about that one, I think, is it focuses on empowering the people who are already there.
Oh.
Mobilizing the existing network, equipping them to be active communicators themselves, instead of just relying on, say, outside efforts.
So it taps into the congregation's potential.
Right. To be agents of outreach in their own circles, it could create a kind of ripple effect, People feel empowered.
Okay. Another one that jumped out was inviting Operation Mobilization, OM, for literature distribution. That seems very direct, logistical almost.
Yeah, very practical. And here the emphasis seems to be on leveraging the resources and the established setup of existing organizations.
Right. OM knows how to do literature distribution.
They do. They have a specific expertise, a specific reach. So by partnering, the document suggests, an efficient way to get information out more widely than maybe one group could do alone.
Smart collaboration, using specialized channels. Then there's this idea, establishing sewing centers for poor women. Now that feels like a clear example of that pre-evangelism you mentioned.
Absolutely. Addressing a tangible need.
Right. While also creating chances for connection. How does a sewing center fit into the bigger picture?
Well, initiatives like that, they build bridges, don't they, within a community. They offer practical skills, address economic needs, and that tends to foster trust, goodwill.
And the centers themselves become places for interaction.
Natural hubs, yeah. For relationship building.
Yeah.
and as people work together, support each other.
Hmm.
Well, opportunities for deeper conversations, sharing beliefs, they can just arise more organically.
Less forced.
Yeah, less forced, exactly.
Okay, we also see things like distributing information about FIBA radio broadcasts and even collaborating with FIBA for follow-up. That brings in media.
Right, the power of media to extend reach. Radio's inclusion is pretty strategic, especially for reaching people where maybe physical access is tough.
Or where other communication isn't common.
Precisely. Radio waves can cross barriers, reach a broad audience. But the crucial bit there, I think, is the follow-up.
Right, not just broadcasting at people.
Exactly. Having a system to actually engage with responders shows a real commitment to building relationships, exploring their interest further.
And the list keeps going. Home visits for prayer for the sick, very personal, direct care.
Yeah, and that really emphasizes meeting people right where they are, physically and in terms of their needs.
Offering prayer, especially when someone's vulnerable.
It's a powerful expression, isn't it? Compassion, care. It shows genuine interest in someone's well-being. And that can open doors, for deeper spiritual talks through that personal connection.
Empathy.
Okay. Then literacy training classes for women. Again, empowerment, addressing a fundamental need. How does literacy training connect to communicating the gospel?
Well, education, like literacy here, it empowers people. It can lead to big personal changes, social changes too.
Opens up access to information, including written materials,
Yeah.
like the Bible itself or tracts or books. Plus the act of learning together. It creates community, fosters relationships.
Another natural platform.
Exactly. For sharing, mutual support. It's about investing in people's lives, holistically.
The document also mentions training church planting teams to begin new churches in unreached areas. That's about growth, expansion.
Yeah, multiplication. Training church planters is definitely a long-term strategy for sustainable growth.
Developing local leadership.
Right, and establishing new centers for community, for outreach where maybe there wasn't anything before. It really emphasizes empowering locals to be the main communicators, establishing something lasting.
And the partnership examples continue too. Collaborating with Campus Crusade for Christ for showing the Jesus film.
A very well-known tool.
And contacting the Gideons International to ask about distributing Bibles. Again, leveraging established groups.
Yeah, these partnerships show a real strategic grasp of different groups' strengths and resources. Campus Crusade, or Cruciano, has the Jesus film track record.
Visual communication.
And the Gideons have that global network for Bible distribution. By using these existing infrastructures, it suggests maximizing reach, maximizing impact.
Without reinventing the wheel every time.
Exactly. Saves effort, potentially.
Now, it's interesting that through all these different examples, the document really stresses being as specific as possible.
Yes, when generating the ideas.
And keeping in mind the 6 areas covered in your master plan, though we don't actually know what those 6 areas are from this excerpt.
No, not from what we have here.
But why is that call for specificity so important when you're brainstorming methods?
Well, I think it's crucial because vague ideas are just hard to implement, aren't they?
True.
If you're precise about who you're trying to reach, what resources you need, where it'll happen, when, the idea suddenly becomes much more tangible, actionable.
Right. It moves from just an idea to a potential plan.
Yeah. And even without knowing the exact 6 areas, mentioning a master plan implies these individual ideas should fit into some broader strategy.
Coordinated, focused, effective.
Hopefully, yes.
The document also highlights looking at that Great Commission Christians list again. Considering what those organizations, churches, individuals can do seems very intentional about network building.
Absolutely. That proactive approach, identifying potential partners, it's key to maximizing resources, avoiding duplication of effort, too.
Building a community of effort, you could say.
That's a good way to put it.
And we can't forget the foundation for all this. The document directly quotes 2 Corinthians 9.6.
The sowing bountifully verse.
He who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. That really seems to underpin this whole philosophy of generating tons of options.
It does. It serves as the core rationale. The thinking is basically the more varied and numerous your efforts, the greater the chance of connecting with people in ways that actually mean something to them. It's a principle of increasing your opportunities for impact.
Through lots of different approaches, not just relying on one or two.
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, perhaps.
Okay. And finally, the text acknowledges using a variety of media. It lists tracts, books, audio cassettes, video cassettes, and people as communication tools.
Ah, Yes. People as media.
It's a good reminder that the message can travel in many forms. What's important about recognizing all these different media types?
Well, this inclusive view, it
Right.
recognizes that people learn differently, right?
Yeah.
Engage with information differently.
Some read, some listen, some watch.
Exactly. And, of course, that personal interaction, people, remains incredibly powerful. So by using a variety of media, the strategy aims to reach more people and cater to those different learning styles, different preferences.
Makes sense. Okay, so to sort of recap our deep dive here,
Wow.
the key takeaways seem to be this really strong emphasis on generating a high volume, a wide variety of methods for communicating a message.
Yeah, volume and variety.
And this covers everything from, direct outreach to community development, using different media, building strategic partnerships.
Quite comprehensive.
And right at the heart of it all is that belief in the power of abundant effort, that idea of sowing bountifully to reap bountifully.
Precisely. It's a holistic, expansive approach. It understands that communication is complex, and you probably need to explore multiple paths to really engage effectively with different people.
Okay. And that brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Thinking about this principle, sowing abundantly, how might that idea apply in other areas of your life?
Interesting question.
Yeah, areas where you're trying to maybe share information, build understanding, achieve some kind of goal. What seemingly disparate methods could you maybe combine for a more comprehensive, maybe more successful approach?
Definitely something worth mulling over.
It is. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.